Before we get started, let's remind people the meeting is being recorded. Your participation will be your consent to appear on the town's YouTube channel. And at this time, if you have any electronic device, if you'd either please turn it off or put it on airplane mode. Roll call, please. Present.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you mind, I'd like to have a moment of silence in remembrance of Gene Rakich, who was a former member of our town council. Gene passed away this week. Thank you. I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the November 28th regular meeting. It's been moved by Mr. West, seconded by Mr. Ham. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Here.
Pardon?
I'll abstain since I wasn't here.
Okay, one abstention, Ms. Rishardi. Okay. Next item is WinterFest. Hi.
My name's Andrea Finocchi. I'm the event coordinator of the Visitor Center, and I'd like to talk about WinterFest. I submitted our event permit, and hopefully you all have had a chance to take a look at it, or at least know enough about the event. It's in its 10th year. So I'm working with Tony Sellers and Jennifer Foxworthy on the event. So it's for the 9th, 10th, and 11th of February. Our theme is kind of leaning into the Super Bowl Sunday. Some fun activities planned for the weekend that encourage people to get outdoors and encourage people from around our community or the surrounding areas to come and visit Culver. So as we all know, so anything we can do to put something on that brings people out and have some family-friendly fun. On Friday, we'll have Cupid's Crawl, which is a shopping event downtown. And on Saturday, we have ice fights, which are two ice sculptors go head-to-head on the ice. And they sculpt their own ideas of sculptures. There's also a beer garden, which we listed in the schedule during that same time, and live entertainment, which was music. And we've implemented a kids zone at our other festivals, and we'd like to implement one in this one as well. So we're working with the PTO to have that for the kids to enjoy as well. And there will be ice sculptures around town for that weekend. And on Sunday is the polar plunge and chili cook-off at the beach lodge. So if anybody's looking forward to that, I'd be happy to watch, but I won't be participating in the polar plunge. So that's just some of the highlights of the event. And you guys, like I said, you might already be familiar with it. So
Well, thank you very much.
thank you.
When is it?
It's on the 9th, 10th, and 11th of February.
Special permit, pass that down while we're doing it. Has it been signed off on by all the departments? It has, yes, sir. Okay. I'd make a motion then we approve the WinterFest application, special event application. Second.
Been moved by Mr. West, seconded by Mr. Ham to approve the WinterFest permit. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the second read of Ordinance 2023-021, an ordinance establishing the wage and salary rates of the elected officers, non-elected officers, and employees of the town of Culver, Indiana. Whereas in Indiana Code 36-5-3-2 required the town council of the town of Culver enact an ordinance establishing the compensation of all appointed officers, deputies, and employees of the town of Culver for the calendar year of 2024. Now therefore be it ordained by the town council of the town of Culver Indiana, that the salaries and wages as outlined be effective starting with the payroll, including January 1, 2024. Motion to approve on second read.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Githens. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ham. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a review of town marshal overtime and to extend it if necessary. Karen, you going to address that or?
So I guess this is the time we agreed that every once a month we would revisit and see where Wayne is as in the police department, as far as if he's continuing to work a lot of overtime due to a staff shortage. So I guess.
That's correct. And Wayne's gonna have an update in the department. Do you want to wait for this or do you want to go ahead and move forward with this right now, Wayne, before you update us on your department report?
I mean,
Or you can do it now if you want.
We can.
Okay.
I thought we already did this last
we
week.
do
agreed
it
to do it every 30 days.
And I thought we did it earlier this month. We didn't?
No.
We did last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah, that's good.
I make the suggestion, he just wait until, but if you guys, I mean, you're probably not gonna have anyone in place in the next 30 days, are you? Okay,
All right,
but that,
I make a motion that we extend the overtime pay for the chief of police until the staffing shortage is resolved for another 30 days review.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. West, seconded by Mr. Ham. What's your motion again, Rich?
That we extend the overtime pay for the chief of police until the staffing shortage is resolved and we review it again in 30 days.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Mr. Clevenger, the first reading of ordinance 2023-022, bond ordinance for the EDC/TIF bonds.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you, I think all are aware, we are getting closer and closer to approval of a development agreement and going forward with the Dunes Housing Project. In fact, I think it's in final form. We're just waiting on signatures and we're waiting on some final financial numbers to get squared away from Baker Tilly. So in keeping with the planning calendar that was been in place, scheduled for tonight is the first reading of the bond ordinance. The bond ordinance is rather long. It's 15 whereas clauses that I just described and 9 sections. And if it's okay with you, I'll take the liberty of excluding some of the whereas provisions and picking up the highlights, both of the
That's fine.
whereas and all of the sections.
Absolutely.
The ordinance is entitled an ordinance of the town council of the town of Culver, authorizing the town of Culver, Indiana to issue its taxable economic development tax increment revenue bonds in 2 series and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto. So whereas the town of Culver is authorized to issue revenue bonds for the purpose of financing, refinancing the costs, construction, installation, and equipment of economic development facilities. And the redevelopment commission is expected to adopt an amending declaratory resolution to expand the area and redesignate a portion of the area for purposes of establishing a residential housing program and for purposes of tax increment financing to be known as the Dunes Residential Program Allocation Area Number 1, and a tax increment finance to be known as the Dunes Beachview Allocation Area Number 2, and for all purposes of capturing incremental ad valorem property taxes levied and collected on taxable real property in those allocation areas, which are going to be collectively the TIF revenues. The Town Redevelopment Commission and Culver Equities LLC have entered into an economic development agreement whereby the company has agreed that the company will make certain investments in the town and in connection with company projects which obtain local public improvements, which will be completed in or will serve the allocation areas. Those consist of construction, installation, and equipping of certain public infrastructure improvements consisting of water, sewer, stormwater improvements, and road, curb, sidewalk, and related improvements. The company's requested the town authorize and issue 2 bonds or bonds in two series, a Series A bond for the first couple of phases and a Series B bonds. Collectively, they're just the bonds. The proceeds of the Series A bonds will be used for purposes of financing a portion of the costs of the utility infrastructure project. That's going to be most of the water, sewer lines, and some of the starting up things. And then a Series B bonds, which are for the additional infrastructure bonds, which are going to be the curbing and some of the things that come along usually later in these kind of projects. The town desires to issue the Series A bonds to provide that financing for the utility infrastructure project, and the Series B bonds for the additional infrastructure project. The town intends to use the bonds consistent with the terms of this ordinance. No member of the common council of the town has any pecuniary interest in any employment, financing agreement, or other contract made under the provision. So now therefore be it ordained by the town council of Town of Culver, Indiana, that it is hereby found that the financing of a portion of the economic development facilities for the public infrastructure project comply with the purposes and provisions of the act and will be of benefit to the health, prosperity, economic stability, and general welfare of the town and its citizens. The Common Council hereby confirms the findings set forth in the Economic Development Commission's resolutions and concludes that the Dunes project and the public infrastructure projects will be of benefit to the health, prosperity, economic stability, and general welfare of the citizens of the town. Section 4, the town shall issue the bonds in 2 or more series at an aggregate maximum principal amount not to exceed $5,250,000, which bonds shall mature no later than 20 years after the date of issuance and shall bear interest at the rate of 6.5% per annum. The bonds may be issued on a draw basis. The president of the town council and the clerk treasurer of the town shall determine the financial principal amounts of each of the Series A bonds and the Series B bonds. The bond shall never constitute a general obligation of, an indebtedness of, or charge against the general credit of the town. The president and the clerk treasurer are hereby authorized to approve with the advice of council a bond purchase agreement. Section 5, each of the president and the clerk treasurer and any other officer of the town are authorized and directed to execute the financing documents, such other documents which may be necessary to consummate the transaction. Section 7, the Common Council does hereby acknowledge and approve the pledge of the pledged TIF revenues to the payment of the bonds pursuant to the indentures and the other financing documents that are going to be a part of this project. Section 8, the Common Council hereby finds that the Dunes project and the related financial assistance is consistent with the economic redevelopment plan for the area, and the company would not develop the company projects without the financing assistance. The Dunes projects and the public infrastructure projects will be a benefit to the health, prosperity, economic stability, and general welfare of the town and its citizens. This ordinance shall be effective upon passage by the town council in accordance with the required law. We've got plans for approval of the ordinance on second and third reading somewhere down the line, if you are so inclined to do so.
All right, thank you.
So we can discuss this issue. I'd make a motion that we approve the proposed ordinance.
It's been moved by Mr. West to approve the proposed ordinance. Do I have a second?
Second that.
It's been seconded by Mr. Shardy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
What about
Aye.
discussion? What about discussion?
Okay,
You've got the total dollar amount is $5,250,000. Are they both, if the second bond doesn't go into effect because of the developer, deems the project not,
That's right. The first bond, Series A bonds are going to be,
That's why the phrase is not to exceed 5.2. That would be the maximum, but that doesn't guarantee it will be 5.2. So if that first issuance of the bond A, is for what we're calling infrastructure 1, right? Phase 1 and 2 of the residential, that goes through. The town has clauses and conditions that it can examine and withdraw from the contract if certain conditions aren't met by the developer. And the developer has also added a market clause on there. If he doesn't see a market demand for 3 and 4, he can back out of the deal. There's a point terminus in time. It's not an open-ended thing. He has to have we have a set date that we're negotiating. He has to agree to go into 3 and 4, and that would be the second issuance of the bonds. The total maximum is 5.2.
First series is definitely gonna be though a higher amount. because
Right.
they're gonna put in the water lines, the sewer lines.
And just for clarification.
And that's ready.
The Series A bonds, not just for water sewer, but can also be used in phase 1 and 2 for.
The way that-
curbs.
The way that number was determined, Rich,
Yes,
sorry, I apologize, but the way that we determined that number was we looked at hard infrastructure, we removed the amenities, we removed parks, that kind of stuff. We looked at curbs, sidewalks, lights, sewer, storm, and water. We got that total amount and we agreed to an incentive of a proportion of that amount. And that's what we base that number on, is hard infrastructure.
just from the reading though, it did not, I don't think clearly indicate that streets, curbs in phase.
They were referred to as public infrastructure in there often, so, yeah. We didn't break it out because
That's
we used it to determine that bond issuance number.
There's gonna be a development agreement, that's gonna be a little more specific about some of those.
Does that 6.5% interest rate also apply to the second series of bonds? Or
Yes,
could it be could it be a lot less?
It says the maximum, I think.
Maximum, okay.
It's right now, numbers have run that consistent at 6.5 for both issuances, so that's where we're at.
Cause I wanted to know,
Right.
how that compared to the TIF incrementals.
And what's the estimated time for the second series of bonds? Is there one?
Right now with the projections, when they start, because that's the increment, we're looking at probably 2029 is right in there. That they've got that we're looking at 2029 to start build. And that's when the clock starts on those.
On phase 2?
On phase, well,
3 and 4.
3 and 4, we're calling infrastructure 2.
Gotcha. And by 29, interest rates might not be 6.5%. Hopefully. But nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Any further discussion? Anything more, Bill? Okay, it's been moved and I think we have a second. Sally seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion
Okay.
passed.
We'll be back with the second reading on bond ordinance 2023-022 and probably next meeting, I think, and it's scheduled for the second one.
Yes, sir.
Next item on the agenda is resolution 2023-003. Resolution of the town of Culver suspending the sale of golf cart permits. Whereas the town of Culver recently passed ordinance 2023-19, regulating the use of golf carts within the town of Culver corporate limits. Whereas the town council recognizes a desire to reconsider ordinance 2023-19 with specific consideration toward the permit fee. And whereas the consideration of ordinance 2023-19 will extend into January 24, as well as transition within the council. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Culver Town Council that we suspend the sale of golf cart permits until February 15th, 2024, and extend the validity of the 2023 permits to this date. This resolution shall become effective upon the date of this pass. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2023-03?
I would like to make a motion to pass resolution 2023-003.
It's been moved by Mr. Shardy. Is there a second? Chair seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 2023-003 is approved. Dunes update.
Coming out. Sorry, had a long discussion today with Baker Tilly. We are sharing an economic analysis with the developer, looking at numbers of the bonds, and we're hopeful that we hear back from the developer. We also have a development agreement that is in his hands. And my last discussion with the developer's attorney, it looks positive. Based upon the agreement, there's a few things we're still trying to negotiate in terms of interest, and we're looking at, in essence, a few things with the storm and the architecture. There's some things that the town's engineers want. We're using Midwestern. Had a conference call this morning with Scott from Midwestern, and there's a series of things that we're requesting from the developer, which include the fittings, the pipes, the specs on all the water lines and the sewer lines. And we're wanting to make sure we have a confirmation from the DNR in terms of the wetlands there. So we're kind of confirming, I'm looking for an approval letter from the developer certifying that delineation and what they're putting in storm isn't impacting that. So we've asked for that. I have a call in. I'm hopeful to talk to Burke tomorrow on that. And other than that, we're moving forward and we're trying to solidify the numbers. And we should have some numbers that are going to be solid that we can share out beginning of next year. We're hopeful for that, and I'm pressing for that. So that's where we're at on the dunes.
Thank you.
That's a good question, sir. We're working on that. We're working on one last easement down by the Howard. Just for everybody to understand this, and I think it is important to understand, we're running water and sewer down South Main Street on the west side, and we're capturing easements along the way. We're terminating that line right where Tim Howard's property is. We're not crossing across to Beachview. We're going to terminate it right there. Beachview has to come across the road to connect to us. That's our obligation to that. And so we're not providing any type of infrastructure into Beachview, simply terminating that line because we have an obligation to provide that because of the annexation. And so that's where we're at. And we're hopefully going to hear back from and work on that.
Just as an update, the Dickey people that own the one deal, they have a new guy working on it, and he promised me he was gonna get back to me first of the week, because he was gone last week. Didn't hear from him so far, but they're looking favorably at some kind of an easement for public utility purposes. We haven't heard from Mr. Howard on the south side.
Got our best guy working on it.
So we may have to pay him a little something for an easement, so. But if it falls through, we're moving along so that we can also condemn the public easements so that we don't hold up the project.
Russ, you have a,
While back, you talked about a traffic survey. Has that been completed?
With MACOG, it hasn't been completed because I added a few things on it. I added Ohio and Jefferson Street and Mill Street at those corners. Cause I want to see how much they can anticipate that access to from Ohio Street going out to 17 from the dunes.
The reason I'm interested
Sure.
in it is I've always been an advocate of going out to 17.
I-
So depending on how that
Agreed.
traffic thing turns out, that might have a bearing on it.
Sure. They gave me some preliminary numbers, and they were looking at a pretty minimal impact on 17's traffic. And they were looking, and again,
Of
here's,
course, it wouldn't have any because there's no connection to 17.
well, right, but
Talking
still
about-
people are still going to access 17 differently. It's just not connected, right? So they were looking at that. That's why I wanted them. That's what prompted me to ask about Ohio and Mill Street, anticipating if you're heading north to Plymouth, you'll bypass town and jump out and go that way, maybe. We'll see. But I've asked them a couple more things. Another thing that I asked them to try to get a number on, and this is difficult, one of the concerns is going down West Shore and the public landing, which is already a concern without anything there, right? We've all known that, we've acknowledged it. I want to see what their anticipated increase is there. And it's something we still got to focus on regardless of the dunes. And so I appreciate that. Yes, sir.
You used the term beach view. What is that?
excuse me, will you
First time I've
please,
heard
for the
that.
record,
Excuse me, on Tom Uhas, 430 State Street.
Thanks, Tom.
You used the term beach view. I don't know what that is. It's the first time. I've
Okay,
heard
so
that
the
name.
executive storage,
So I know executive storage.
Okay, so the
but I haven't
executive
had the
storage-
name associated with it.
no problem. The executive storage is a separate LLC, and that's referred to as Beachview. The Dunes is using Culver Equities as their LLC. So they're two separate entities. The wonderful thing about the executive storage is we're capturing that TIF without providing a single dime in infrastructure. So that is its own separate entity. We're running down to Main Street, terminating, but it's in our TIF. So we're capturing the increment off of that.
So we don't have to provide water under the street is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is I'm not going into that property. You're exactly right. They're coming to me. They're coming to connect there because we're obligated to run it to, but not for. So it's separate from the dunes and we're not providing that infrastructure.
Tom,
Why are you
Beachview,
doing it for one and not the other?
Because I think it's reasonable to put in for housing and incentive. I don't think it's reasonable to put in for executive storage and some of the storage. That, if that's a fair enough direct answer, that's the answer.
Thank you.
Not gonna do
and
that.
that's just not your opinion, that's opinion of some of the people up here.
That's exactly
And
right.
Beachview Properties it's an LLC. It's the name of the company that owned that property. They owned it before, before.
Town manager report?
It's holiday season, guys. It's been a pretty light, sort of light period for me. I was really pleased. I want to thank Andrea and Amber for a great time at the Christmas Fest uptown. They did a wonderful job getting lights up, and except for the Christmas tree not lighting on the first try for me, it was a nice time and it was a nice turnout. It's good to see the kids up there as well. They really don't care about town managers, but Santa Claus seems to be popular, and that I just got off the stage. Had a great time on Saturday. My daughter and I were able to volunteer down in the Culver community. We went down and she got to visit with some of her old teachers and things, but we also worked on the Christmas basket. And what a fantastic thing that Marlene does, and the whole town comes together. One of the things that was really striking to me is the fact that you had just people of all ages, all different backgrounds attached to Culver coming together and working on that. And then really thanks the emergency service and police force, everybody delivering baskets on Sunday, taking the time to care. And that was a pretty special time to see that. We had to get out of the way on Saturday. There were so many people just getting that stuff done. So it was really nice time. So apart from that, that's it. Most of the stuff will come in department, and that's where we're at.
Okay, department head report, EMS. Anybody online for EMS or in the room for EMS? Fire.
Yeah, the only one thing that I brought up at like the last meeting was the hovercraft damage that was done. We ended up settling with what they did for $7,000 worth of damage that they fixed on the hovercraft. Some of the other things that need to be done, we're gonna do in-house. It's kind of a little different kind of deal. When it got there, it got miscrewed and they found extra damage and the whole 9 yards, and it kind of snowballed out of control before I could put the brakes on it. Once I knew it was pretty much too late. It was a done deal. There was no stopping it. It's been sitting there waiting to get approved for you guys to pay the bill for that.
So you're asking for approval of an expenditure of how much?
$7,000.
$7,000.
Is that what's in the claims?
Yeah, it's in the claims.
Yeah, it's in the.
Pardon?
In the claims.
It's in the claims.
No, it's in the claims. Okay, thank
I
you.
just want to explain. What got to that. But I know I brought it up last meeting, that's just where it's at. It's not sitting there waiting to like that.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Wayne?
Well, I'd like to hire 3 people. So everybody's been waiting to hear. Larry Jolly. Rochester. Graduated Rochester High School. Graduate of the ILA 95-121 class. Currently works Fulton County Sheriff's Department. 29-year veteran. And second one, Tracy Owens. She's with Linden Sheridan. Graduate of Pike High School in Indy. Graduated Indiana Business College. She's the ILA graduate of August of 2023. Class 230. Just a recent graduate. She's currently a reserve that works with the Sheraton Police Department. Larry, who is obviously more seasoned veteran, we hope to train with him to answer your earlier question with the overtime issue. Hope to get him on board by the middle or end of January. Tracy will take a little longer, because she's like a brand new employee. We just have to put her through the school.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Giving my under approval. I made them a conditional offer.
I move that we approve hiring the two recommended police officer candidates.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. West, seconded by Mr. Ham. Any discussion?
Nope.
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Thank you, Wayne.
Second thing is Kevin brought up to you at the previous meeting. And on our vacation holiday and a personal time, your approval, I would like that Karen would pay her to pay us out for that for the end of this year out of the 2023 budget.
That's been fairly standard when you've been low on employees, so that, because it's somewhere between near impossible and impossible to actually get a day off. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Shardy, seconded by Mr. West. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Approved.
Kevin said that we're pretty busy on Sunday. Deliveries. Everybody was there, cameras, big hand in that for 3 days. It's a good time. All I have.
Thank you, Wayne. Congratulations. Been a long struggle.
Yes.
Park, Amber. Nothing from the park. Thank you. Utilities. Bob, are you online?
I am. I have nothing for you.
Nothing from utilities. Thank you. Clerk's report. Excuse me.
Can I just ask a question? Bob Utility is the utilities manager, and we had a major issue utilities this past week, and there's nothing to. And shouldn't we be a little more transparent on what happened, what went down forward?
Absolutely. That's a fair point, and I probably could include that in my town manager report, so I'll take that one on. So what we had was a 10-inch pipe on Main Street. It ended up, because of the way the backfill happened, we had brick on top of it. What it caused was a leak. And we had to try to address that. It was a pretty good sized leak. We were trying to get that fixed without shutting down, but Bob got to the point where he had to shut down the system, or we were going to lose total pressure, which would have required a much longer period to repressurize. So what we did was we shut down the system on Friday. Guys did a great job, and I appreciate you bringing this up because I do need to acknowledge that. They got in the hole, rainy day. We had it fixed in 4 hours. We were able to get back up online. The only issue is with water testing, we've had to wait till Monday. We had a little issue with UPS, but we got it taken care of, and we were able to get those results back and get them tested. And everything was fine with the water, and I appreciate that. The best part of it was that in doing this, we've researched some different water testing companies. We do think we have some companies that might be able to do it on weekends when we have it on Friday, so that downtime or the public isn't waiting so long, especially our restaurants. We acknowledge that it can be a little difficult for them because they have to shut their pop machines down and everything. So we're going to try to renegotiate and see if we can't get that testing a little faster. But other than that, I think it was pretty efficient. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about it.
Was it age of pipe or was it?
No, absolutely, absolutely. No, it was just one of those things where we had a slip in the fill and it caused damage to the pipe. It wasn't the age of the pipe. And that's a valid concern, right, in some places, but it was essentially just damage caused from that brick fill on that old street above it. Yes.
I just wanted to say thanks for putting the FOIL order was not necessary anymore on the post sign. I did mention something, so I don't know who answered it on the thing.
Possible.
I think it's important for something like that. Phone calls are great. Some people didn't get texts when they thought they were supposed to. And because of that, I mean, if it just goes up on something like that.
Yep.
Us can see that.
I made sure that the minute that boiler, I got to the restaurants, but I also got to the school when they were still in session. So we could get that word to parents and the school teachers and the administration got it, also the factories and stuff. And on the day that it happened, I tell you, it was a great thing to see because even Wayne picked up some phone calls for us while we were out there trying to do things and everybody kind of got in
Yeah.
and got that taken care of. I don't know why I said even Wayne, that was kind of interesting. Let me tell you, anyway, it was good.
So Kevin, was it the weight of the old street that caused that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna be a structural engineer here. I'm guessing what Bob said. And when I got to the hole, it looked like reverse stratigraphy. That brick was down on top of that pipe. And it's just one of those things with Phil. Probably could have taken that brick out. It would have been better, but it didn't happen. It was a contractor. And so moving forward, we'll keep an eye on that. And that's what caused the damage, though. It wasn't the age of the pipe, although it's a reasonable thing, right? That one might assume that, but it wasn't on this one. So, but
Well,
thanks.
to me, that road doesn't seem like there should be 53-foot semis going down it on a regular basis. And guys that have never been to this town before get lost and they end up on that street. And I don't think that's a healthy thing for our town.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And keeping construction traffic off of that, maybe putting some signage up on Mill and keeping people off of that before they get to it would be helpful. So, but thank you. Yeah.
I'm just curious, what is how did you get the text numbers?
Karen kind of jumped on that. Go
It's in
ahead.
the utility billing system. If we have a phone number, then those people got text, phone call.
So that's why
If we had
my
an
wife
email,
got it, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it.
That's where
So she had to fill me on what was going on.
So all those people, plus people who had moved years ago,
Yeah.
got it because the system didn't update, so.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Is there also the text advisory besides just the billing people, but you could sign up for a
Well-
service for emergency notification for various things? Is that still existing there? Or?
It still exists for another month or two.
Oh, okay.
Once we switch utility billing systems, that system's gonna go away, then the information that we have in our billing system will be used. So,
But I thought we had a system that was more than just utility customers.
well,
Or-
let's say I jerry-rigged the system so that I could add additional
Got it.
people
Okay.
that weren't utility billings,
Got it.
billing people. But I will put it out there. If people want to be on an email list that I have, I regularly send, anything that I send out to Town Gown and Lake also goes to a separate email list that I have. So if you want to get on that and not be on Town Gown and Lake, you can email me, I will add you. So,
Okay.
but I mirror both of them, but I know there's some people that just want to be on one.
Okay, thank you.
Clerk's report.
I have a couple of, well, actually several, claims over $2,500 for your approval. The first one is Do It Right Diving for $2,620. That is for dive equipment, and that comes out of the gift fund. That was a donation that the fire department received specifically for that diving equipment. The second one is the Marshall County Auditor for $2,695.15, and that is for the fall election expenses. I believe you already approved this one, but I just want to make sure. Cargill Incorporated, $6,507.53, and that's for the salt for this winter. And the street department, for the Culver Food Pantry, which is something that you approved back in, I believe it was September, for them to purchase shelving and a freezer, $6,572. And that came out of the clerk's budget. And it was specified that it would come out of this year's budget, and it has. Neoterra Hovercraft is $7,000 out of the fire department for repairs to hovercraft that Terry mentioned. The next two are for Thomas Excavating and Welding. Those are both for the final payments, payout 3 and 4 for the Academy Road extension work that comes out of the American Rescue Plan funds that we received, $35,212.33. And then the second one was the $10,836.18. And then along with that, Midwestern Engineers for $18,000, and that is for the engineering. So that takes care of that project and it's done. The engineering that comes out of water, as I can't pay those expenses out of the ARPA funds. And finally, EJ Prescott, $9,993. That's for water, for materials and supplies. I believe that one was already, that request to spend those funds had come up for you.
We have a motion to approve claims over $2,500.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Githens, seconded by Mr. Ham. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
With the food pantry, I put together a contract for them between the two of us because we're giving them funds. I just wanted it to be that we're giving them funds. We are not owning the refrigerator, the shelving. We don't have any other responsibilities. So I put together a contract, met with Gail, and then Don Freeze came over and we discussed it. And so Gail's signature is on it. If you would approve that contract and you guys sign it, then we're done there.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Githens, seconded by Mr. West to approve the food pantry contract. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Told that the final meeting of this year is Thursday, December 28th. No one will be in this building. Well, I would take that back. Emergency services will be here. My office is not going to be here on December 26th. We'll be finishing up Christmas. Let's see. So the water and sewer rates, I was in Fort Wayne today for the newly elected officials training. Dan Neer was there, which was great to see. I also saw Jeff Rao, who works for Baker Tilly, and talked with him for a little bit. Let him know that you were getting ready to consider the water and sewer rates once again. I will provide him updated numbers, and he kind of asked when you wanted to start looking at that, and I suggested maybe February. Give the new council members a little bit of time to get their feet wet in January, and then we can move forward. I just want to be clear, though, that the rates that we're considering have nothing to do with the dunes. That's a self-contained project. We have not raised water or sewer rates since 2017. So I just want to be clear on that. And the final thing that I have is I received a copy of my bond today. I believe Julie probably got the deputy clerk one, and we got one from the park superintendent. So if you would approve those, I need your approval on them. I will get them signed, and then I have to file them. I believe it's with the clerk. You would go ahead and approve the bonds for the clerk, deputy clerk, and the park superintendent.
Is there a motion to approve the bond for the clerk, deputy clerk, and the park department?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Shardy, a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. West. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
I misspoke. The board and commission, there are a number of board and commission members whose terms expire at the end of this year. They all have been notified. I sent a copy of an application along with that. With your permission, I would like to set a date for application for people to submit their applications. I'll get that information out on Town Ghana Lake, the website. And but I just kind of questioned what date you would like that. And I was going to suggest maybe like January 5th.
January what, Karen?
January 5.
January 5.
I don't know what date that is, but yeah, January 5 would be a Friday. Your first meeting is January 9th. I'm not sure how much, or we could do it earlier that week. I don't know, I'm assuming you probably want to make appointments at that first meeting, or, and I don't know if you want to do any sort of interviews or contact with those people that submitted.
Pleasure of the council.
Part of it depends on whether any of the current ones that are on wish to remain on. And, you know.
Well, how about, then why don't we make the,
I was gonna say maybe the fourth would be,
The fourth would be a Thursday.
and that would give
That would be-
us time to interview some of the, any new applicants that were interested.
I had one other thing, but it's escaped me, so that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Attorney's reports.
Thanks. Just follow up on the bonds. Are you and the deputy and
Amber, yeah.
are they the only three that collect money? Okay. Town manager never does.
He tries not to.
Not unless
If
Julie
he does,
says-
it goes.
It goes right to Julie Cal and she pats me on the head like a good boy, so.
Mr. President, I really don't have much to report. We do have a little initial hearing on a town ordinance water bill collection on January 8th that treasurer and I will do our thing on apparently. So, but other than that, I've reported on the dunes that I know of at this point, and it's progressing nicely. I think we're getting closer all the time. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone in the room for utility shut off or ordinance violation? Anyone online? Hearing none, citizen input. Anyone in the room for citizen input? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Marion Schuler, 1116 South Street. I'm really not up on the Dunes project. When I went in and asked about it, I was handed a map, which I later found out was outdated. And I guess my feeling is we need to have a big display map, not a little bitty, given a little bitty map that you can't really see. Okay, so that the citizens can see what's going on. I don't know where Beach View is compared to the dunes. And that's my ignorance, and I understand that. And I know you're working really hard to make this work and make it something positive for the town. But the citizens kind of have a little bit of knowledge about it. I asked about if you have elevations of what the buildings are going to look like. Do we know what it's going to look like?
Yes.
Have we any idea of the construction? Are they all going to look the same when you drive in? If you have had too much to drink, you won't know which one you're because they're all the same. It seems to me we need variation. We need color, different colors. We need to have some information on, is it going to look like little boxes, or is it going to look like a beautiful subdivision that's an asset to the town? And I think I have to ask you to look at the aesthetics of the community, the trees, the planting, the pathways, the quality of life. And I guess my feeling is big isn't always better. I mean, it seems to me some of this looks a little crowded. The spacing between the buildings looks tight. If as a homeowner, we all have to have 10 feet between our house and the property line. I'm suspecting we don't have 20 feet between those buildings. And I may or may not be correct on that, but I think you need to look at density. I think you need to look at some of these things. Beyond that, I am concerned about how this is being paid for. I'm hearing all this stuff about bonds, and it's not even really approved as far as I can see. So why are we doing this? I also don't know if the developer has to put up a certain percentage of money in advance before they can go ahead, so that they don't get started and then we have this huge mess that's not finished. Seems to me that there needs to be percentages decided. What do they have to have? What about occupancy? Do they need to have a percentage of occupancy in advance of building? I mean, if you want to build a tower in a big city, you have to have a sales office, you have to present what you're selling, and you have to have so many units pre-sold before you can start. And that doesn't mean all the money, but at least people put deposits down that they are expecting that, you know, at a certain point, when they open it up, and there'll be people there. The next point I have to say is regarding Section 8 housing. I was told that this was not going to be a low income housing. However, the builder could agree to a certain percentage of units being Section 8. And all of you should know what Section 8 is. I didn't know about it until someone mentioned it to me. And apparently people that don't have the money can get money from the government to bring their money up to the level of the median income or medium rental age. So I'm not up to this. I don't know what this is all about. I don't know what percentage are going to be individually owned. I don't know if the developer is going to own it all. It seems to me that it's not been straightforward as far as I can see, and it's my own ignorance. I haven't been attending any meetings or anything. I leave it up to you, and you're my representatives. I'm praying that you do a great job.
Just to make sure that I don't leave the meeting without understanding some of the concerns. Number one, a visualization, a bigger map, something that you can see that provides the information in terms of elevations, which we can get and we have. That's something I'll put in the public, and something that's a little larger maybe is what I'm hearing, and that's perfectly reasonable. The second thing that I understood, I'm sorry, I'm not to interrupt you, I'm sorry. The second thing I want to make sure.
Up here,
Sure.
it seems to me we need something up
Yeah.
on the wall.
And that's something we can we'll work on that. And we've been trying to get that map, but they moved a few things around, so I don't want to do that. And then everybody says, wait a minute, that changed. But we can certainly get to that point. The second thing I think that's really interesting is those setbacks, the variances in between. We'll have that information. Everything has to go through due process. From the wetlands to those setbacks, and those measurements have to comply with our current standards, and they will be vetted throughout the process. So that is not something they're going to just slip in. And if they do have something different than what our standards are, they have to go through the process to get that variance and work with our building commissioner, Steve and Gorski. And so that's something we're already looking at, including the subdivision process and everything. So they're no exception. They're going to go through the same process as everybody else. But I appreciate you bringing that up, and that's something I'll definitely communicate. And in terms of the bonds, hopefully some of those questions will get answered as we move. Can't comment on Section 8 housing. I really don't anticipate that, because he's in it as he's a market developer, and that's not something that's going to be in his advantage. Probably, but I won't speak towards that right now.
It's not government subsidized.
I'm sorry, Section 8 housing?
That's what Section 8 housing is.
Well, I thought
this development doesn't have any government.
But that's exactly,
finance.
Russ, that's my point.
So there is no Section 8 housing.
Section 8 goes to the individual that applies for it.
I'm sorry.
But it's through the government.
Okay.
And this is not Section 8 housing.
But that's, let's just leave it at that, the fact that it's not a government. That was my point, but.
Kevin, and for the record, how many public hearings have there been on this issue, and when is the next one scheduled?
Marty, can you help me on that one?
I'm sorry.
We've had probably 6.
How many public hearings have we had specifically addressing the dunes issue to get public input? And then also, when is the next scheduled one, or what's next on the agenda in terms of that?
Okay, so, hi, everyone. I'm Marty Osterman. I'm the president of the Redevelopment Commission, and I'm working with Kevin on the communication plan around this project. And so the Redevelopment Commission held a public hearing in October as kind of the coming out, event for the dunes. At that same time, we launched a website which has frequently asked questions, FAQs online, which address just about every question that you brought up is in writing. The answers are in writing online on the town's website. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knows that exists. And that, we owe an update on a couple of those questions and answers to like the traffic, as Russ brought up. But it's it's an ongoing work in progress. So I'm sorry, Rich, long-winded answer. We had it in October. The Economic Development Commission is going to meet on Monday.
That's right. Thank you.
Every month, the redevelopment commission has a sustaining agenda item, a students update, where we provide an opportunity for the public to ask questions and we provide answers. And those are all on the YouTube channel for Culver. Please go ahead.
Can I just ask you a quick question? Why is phase 1 and 2 rental apartments and
So, please.
homes? And Maureen Dickinson, 522 South Main Street.
Thank you.
And not homes, like 3 and 4 are homes. That's if we get to 3 and 4. Because we talked about, we may not even go as far as phase 3 and 4. So why aren't we starting with the homes first? And then if we go to the rentals. I mean, it's kind of backwards in I think, but I'm just Maureen Dickinson and I could do something.
Several reasons for that, and I'm speaking towards that a little bit for the developer. The first thing is what we're looking for is affordable housing, somewhere for startup families moving into it. I mean, I get what you're saying, Maureen, I do, but I'm giving you the reason. They're putting the affordable part in. The second phases are going to be more expensive, right? For the single family detached homes. There are some condos involved in that first one, some duplexes and things. So there are some options. I can't speak towards why he did it, right? But that's one advantage I can see. I hope that will be an advantage that we can get those apartments with young families, that kind of stuff. I'm being optimistic. I know that, but it's also where he chose to bring it in. And so that's the straight answer.
No, I get that. And I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. But I think that's probably where a lot of community members are concerned, where the thought process or head goes automatically to section 8.
We got to put that section 8.
Quote or quote.
Yeah.
But lower income is the same in a lot of people's minds. That's
I understand. And I understand that. The thing is that, and that's why I answered the question the way I did. He came in as a market price development, right? He's looking for a market base. It's not something that he's going to be looking to do.
Well, and because my thoughts are on that, Kevin, is that, when you bring in apartments, there's turnover, then it's a constant turnover. It's not like we're bringing families that are going to stay and be productive community members in any way, shape or form, or even, bring in extra money from the government, to help schools.
Sure.
Because then those kids will leave, they'll come in, they'll leave them. So
I appreciate them.
You know what I mean? So
I do, I appreciate them.
being someone who's worked in schools, in education, and it's kind of like backwards.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you.
I'm just speculating, but I think it's cash flow for the developer.
I think you're right.
Very well be, but I don't want to speak. Speculation, exactly. All right.
The units that are being built first are mostly rentals, even the homes that will be rented.
Yeah.
Are being built first, and the developer is going to maintain ownership of all of those. So I think you're right, Bill. It is, but it also creates the ability to build a project.
Yeah.
Any other citizen,
Just a question to Kevin and or Marty. The same developer has developed the Centennial Crossing project in Plymouth. Well, that's not an exact model of this. Is it a reasonable model to get some type of concept of what the area will look like? That area is actually, I think, only about 2/3 the size.
It is, but, and I agree with the first comment. I think we can update a visualization that might provide a much better basis. I really do appreciate that point. Because we have parks, there are the golf cart trails, there are things in this. Greenery is definitely, green space is something that they're looking at, and there is these, I think it's hard to get a sense what you're looking at online. I think it's time for an updated version. And I'll try to make that a priority moving into in the beginning of the year, at the end of this year. So I really appreciate that.
When they finalize that plan, they should build a model which is a scale model, which will give a very good visualization of a typical thing that's done in
I
development.
think we're getting to that point where we can lock them down on that, Rich, and I think I'll pursue that as we move forward.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you. Both.
Any other citizen input? Hearing none. Anyone online for citizen input? Council issues. Rich?
Just a couple of things, very briefly. Thank Karen for all of her work on, and Julie for all of her work on the employee holiday party. And also all of those people who volunteered with the Culver Christmas Basket Program, whether it's physically helping with it or donating monies for it. There was, I don't want to say there's excess food, but there was a whole semi-load of food that was not distributed because it was more than they needed for the basket program that was given to the food pantry.
Good.
And so I think it's another demonstration of, I think, the community stepping forward and helping to address, the needs here. And I think that's something we should acknowledge and be proud of. So.
Thank you. Bill?
Nothing.
Sally?
I have nothing.
I have nothing. Mr. Ham?
I just want to remind you about the peak traffic study and how that's going to be conducted. Beyond December. I'd like to give you some input on that because I'm done.
I'll make sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
A motion to adjourn to claims.
Remove.
That's been moved by Mr. Githens, seconded by Mr. West. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.